Welcome to our special edition of Keeping Up with Trends. My name is Fred Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And I'm joined with Sergio Davids, our host today. So, Sergio,
Hey
it's
Fred,
all on you.
awesome man. Well, I think before we start with our earnings season, I want to address something that we spoke about 3 months ago, and that was the banking crisis. And one of the things that I've seen is JP Morgan's performance. And it's been nothing if not spectacular. I mean, I'm just looking at their earnings now, and their revenue, for the last quarter was 41 billion to a forecast of 39 billion. So my question to you is, what happened to the banking crisis?
So, it comes to show you, and I said this at the time, that it wasn't a crisis in and of itself. It was more a micro issue for, I believe it was Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah,
Um, and
SVB.
And this is the thing. And at the time, I remember saying, I was also interviewed on Newsroom Africa.
Yeah,
The media loves to play this. This is like sugar. This is like, putty in their hands. Um, and the reason why is that they love to play up hype of fear. That's how they sell. If I can make you afraid, then I've done my job. And
yeah,
that's
can sell papers.
ostensibly what they've done. And at the time, I remember saying, SVP Bank was what, a $200 million bank,
Yeah,
right? What's the market cap of JP Morgan Chase?
jeez.
$2 trillion.
I mean,
$2
it makes
trillion.
SVB a drop in the ocean.
$2 billion, not $2 trillion, $2 billion. So it's like, this small dinky bank, you know,
Yeah.
out of nowhere, who doesn't keep proper compliance
I think,
standards.
yeah, I was about to say, I think that's the biggest takeaway out of all of this. And, in that same month, we also saw Credit Suisse fold up. But again, you know, it's got to do with malfeasance and,
You play
um,
with fire, you get burned. It's like something
exactly,
very simple. You need to teach
exactly.
every child.
You know, I think we definitely should dive into and unpack the non-crisis at some point. But apologies for that little digression. Let's get on with earnings. So we've got Netflix and Tesla both, debuting their quarterlies. I think it will be Q2 on 19th July. So give me your thoughts on Tesla.
Okay, so Tesla. I'm looking at it from a trader's perspective. Tesla's on
Right.
all close to all time highs
Mm-hmm.
after all its, um,
Is that a
well,
tough year?
yeah,
Oh
but
well, I
it's
mean last year.
yes, everything has had a tough year last year, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the business. And that's what's beautiful about the business right now is that you see it coming back in real time. And yes, are we off of our all-time highs by about 50% or a little bit less than 50%, 40%?
Sure,
Yes.
but you talk about coming back. It's 168% year to date. What a
Yeah, so
comeback.
yeah. So I mean, with the this will be like one of those type of things that you could play out as, the greatest comeback in 20 years from now, when
Yeah.
you'll say we'll be in another bubble bust, right?
Hopefully not,
You
but
say,
sure.
well, not hopefully not. That's just the way the markets go, Sergio. I mean, how many bubbles and
I,
busts have I
yeah,
seen in
I
my
know. I
lifetime?
even remember, 2010 crash, 2008 crash.
So that's just the reality. I mean, should I take it further than that? I mean, 2008, 2009,
Oh yeah,
right, was a major crash. I mean, you
yeah,
guys, I don't know if you really remember. I was trading in the street. I felt it. I
yeah,
was also back in the United States at the time, and a crash is a crash, and it took a long time to make that back. It took a very long time. I'll
yeah,
take it even further. If you look at the Nasdaq, historic numbers of the Nasdaq, which represent high tech stocks, okay, Tesla is listed. Any stock that you see as four symbols, okay, is listed on the Nasdaq. That's one of the key ways you know what's the difference with the Nasdaq and the New York Stock Exchange. New York Stock Exchange also. So let's just delve into this for 2 seconds. New York Stock Exchange has been around for over 200 years. I can't
Right.
even I don't know what the and they've had stocks listed there for over 100 and something years. Okay, it's old school kind of companies. Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, IBM, who has been around for who knows how long,
Yes.
3M, all the old school, JP Morgan, okay, which
Right.
was bought out by Chase and they merged, and all these type of companies that have been around since who knows when, 100 years ago even,
Hmm.
okay. They're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. In the late 70s, early 80s, there was a new exchange introduced in the United States, and because of the threshold of in order to be listed on an exchange was lower on the Nasdaq. So all these tech stocks, starting out with Microsoft, Apple, Google came 20 something years to almost 30 years later. And so they developed the Nasdaq. So the Nasdaq represents by default, just by default, all
Yeah.
the tech stocks, and the Dow Jones, the New York Stock Exchange, reflects, or the S&P 500. Those are all, New York Stock Exchange, Dow Jones, and the S&P are all mostly, okay. The S&P may be less; it's more diverse, but mostly they're old type of businesses, like the banks, the conglomerates, the oil companies, the automobile companies, the healthcare companies. But the Nasdaq is really just stocks, tech stocks. So now the Nasdaq hit something at 5,000 in 2000. It didn't get back to that until just very recently. I mean, if you look,
Jeez.
so I'm saying, like, talk about comebacks. That took a very long time to come back. Okay. Now I'm talking about historic. And this is something that, it took, I'll tell you exactly how long it took. In 2000, in the year 2000, we hit 4,400. We were just shy of
Just shy. Yeah.
5,000. We are just shy of 5,000. And then in 2018, only 2018, it took 18 years later, 18
That's
bloody years
incredible.
later. It's incredible. Do you know? You have no idea how incredible it is. And in fact, I held some stocks, okay, that I bought in 1994, tech stocks, Oracle. I had some Microsoft that I made like 10 times my money, okay, on that upswing from 1997 up to 2000. And I was so sure that it wouldn't go away, right? That it would stay at these intervals, and it didn't. Okay, now it took a long time for me to make back some of that money in the
Can you
year
imagine?
2008. In the year 2008, I was still red in the year 2008, and I sold it because it started going down in 2009 and I got out. But if you look at the sell-off from 2000 to 2002, vis-a-vis the 2008 to 2009, in terms of, um, the Nasdaq, it went from 5,000 down to 1,000. Okay, and it went from 2,000 to 1,000 in 2009. Now we're at 15,000.
That's incredible.
So
It's an incredible journey. But if I can just get us back to Tesla, right? I look, it's one of these companies that still baffles me, mainly because of its valuation. But we'll get to that, right? So here are three big sort of bullish factors pushing Tesla, and you tell me what you think of it, right? It's 160%, year to date growth. I mean, it's incredible, but we unpacked that, it had a bad year and it bounced back, right? Now, selling, a record 460,000 vehicles in Q1 is amazing, but it's also in a climate of, high inflation, high interest. What do you think? Do you think they can match those numbers again?
so the recovery is really just, not every industry is going through a crisis right now.
Right.
Yes, real estate is going through a crisis. Yes, if you're in the finance field, you're going through a crisis. But not every industry. And there's some industries that are making so much money right now, and especially finance is making some biz. Because it's so lucrative right now. The percentages are so high that it's so lucrative for these companies to make returns right now. So, like. Is the broader market not making money? Yes. However, there are still people making money. It's still there. It's just relocating. So, with that said, okay, you kind of are going through the cycle. It's just a cycle, and it's going to come
Right.
back. Now, on an
Well,
individual level, if you're out of a job, well, the picture looks not very rosy, right?
right.
So those are things to consider. I mean,
Sure. But
look at how the markets have come back just in the past year.
yeah, no,
I'm
it's been crazy to watch the markets like this. Um, One of the things that baffles me, and I suppose it's both a bullish and a bearish factor for Tesla, right, is its market cap of a staggering 891 billion, which puts it ahead, of Volkswagen, Toyota, Ford, General Motors, massive, massive companies which make millions and millions of vehicles a year, and yet Tesla's market cap is insanely high. Is it
It's almost
overvalued?
it. I mean, the PE earning ratio is way out of control. It's at
Right,
85. Okay. So what is PE? It's price. It's the price of the stock vis-a-vis how much it's earning.
right.
Okay.
So,
So 85 is, way out there. There's not even um it's like it's very high. It's not high, it's extremely high. It also depends on, the industry you're in, okay? But like on capital markets, your PE ratio average is maybe 20, okay? Just to give you some perspective of that. You know,
right.
the like there are obviously certain industries that are better, like the gaming industry. It's
Oh,
about
yeah.
30.
Booming.
Okay. So I mean, so like 85 is way up there. Okay. It's really very overvalued vis-a-vis its actual production of
Yeah,
earnings
vehicles.
and okay. With that said, remember the markets are not trading now. The markets are trading in the future. Um,
Sure. And I mean, Tesla's got that in spades, potential. So I'm assuming that, to this day, people are seeing, the potential of, the electric car market and Tesla, its growth. It's just always baffling for me because, their core product is shifting units of vehicles and they're not particularly, expensive. In fact, they had their biggest, price cuts in years, and yet they can beat Volkswagen, Toyota, aforementioned General Motors, just in terms of value. That's incredible.
that is incredible,
I
but
mean,
like
if you unpack Volkswagen, for instance, it's got some of the biggest, car brands in the world. It owns, Porsche for one, and yet it's still more valuable than that company.
yeah, but it's all about volume. I mean, how many Porsches do you sell a year, and how many Teslas do you sell a year?
Sure, but
And it's enter
Volkswagen makes millions
and
versus
it's also
Tesla's
entering
hundreds of
certain
thousands.
markets. It's also still
Yeah,
entering certain markets. It's still in a growth state now, albeit that it's not fully saturated. What I'd like to see, and I'm
yeah,
with you on this, okay, their revenue has gone up. Their sales have gone up
yeah,
from 23 billion to 24 billion.
right,
Okay, that's a pretty decent increase in sales. Okay, that
right.
their sales from 2022 to 2023 has gone up 24% year to date. What is interesting is to see, like, they're ahead of the bell curve. They were the first electric cool vehicle in the market.
Oh yeah,
Today, you have companies like Lucid Motors.
yeah. And
Um,
Fisker, and there's a lot of Chinese, manufacturers are coming
there's
up,
also a lot of Chinese manufacturers.
and some of the most traditional, brands out there are also, shifting to electric. I mean, you know. General Motors, for instance, has got an entire plan on electric autonomous vehicles. So I think in the next 5 years, Tesla's going to have a hell lot of competition. It's just lucky that some of the biggest car makers in the world are dipping their toes in a market that it already dominates.
So that's the point I wanted to say. I want to see how much their brand loyalty will come to save them down the road. And one, and two, will they be able to sustain that innovative edge on the rest of the market? Meaning, are they like the Apple to the car industry, right? That they
Yeah,
come up with a
yeah.
new technology and then everybody else has to just follow it?
I
Or are they
think
going to be able to
I
sustain
think
that?
just like Apple, it's an aspirational brand, and they've got that, in their favor. It's not just owning a vehicle, it's a Tesla. It's like an Apple device. You're not just buying a phone,
Yeah, but
something to aspire to.
they've had some glitches in the system. Have
Uh,
you been in a Tesla?
yes. Look, it's amazing vehicle. I would say that they need to spice up their lineup. I mean, it's a bit long in the tooth now. And the Cybertruck, it, I'm laughing because it looks like something that you pre-rendered on Windows Paint. But I'm pretty sure it's going to take the market by storm. I mean, an electric truck. Even Ford's coming out with an electric truck.
Yeah, I like, that's the other thing. Where Bill Gates said about Steve Jobs, he brings art into computers,
Yeah,
right? To Apple, it's not a computer; it's a piece of art.
exactly. It's
So
something
to
different, something to
Elon
set it
Musk,
the
I
market apart.
wonder if it's a piece of art as opposed to just a car. And they're coming up with new models. I just want to see what the long term sustainability of the car is and what's their brand loyalty down the line. And if that could sustain itself,
Yeah.
then their price, I think, is not just justified. I think it's even low.
And, talking about brand loyalty, let's move on to Netflix. Now, Netflix has had a torrid year last year. There were even talks about, the company going out of business. It's made a comeback. Its stock is rallied, 48% year to date. And, some of the sort of bullish factors pushing Netflix. It claims it has 1.8 million new subscribers, which is amazing. And they're forecasting that they're going to have record subscriber growth. What are your thoughts on Netflix?
So this has been um, Netflix. Okay, so two things about Netflix. Netflix is also producing movies today, right?
Yep,
And shows.
its own original content. Yeah,
And I think that that's really a big deal. The fact that it's been able to do that.
yeah. Well, um, going from just streaming videos to actually making your own $1 million series, not to mention movies, is huge. It's quite a big shift for them. Um, there were a lot of issues with changing some of their the way they use their subscriptions. For instance, you're not allowed to share your password with anyone anymore, which was weird because that was one of the primary reasons for people to get Netflix, and now they've done away with it. I think their very cheap model has also worked for them. They now have that ad fold cheap version, which has obviously been quite good for them. And I worry though about Netflix mainly because you've got huge rivals in what I think is a bit of a saturated market. I mean, you've got Disney Plus, you've got Hulu, HBO, Apple TV. There's any one of them, is carving out its own slice of quite a small pie at the moment. Do you think you'll see a situation where Disney might buy out Netflix?
Um, I wonder. I wonder if it's in Disney's corporate culture to buy out Netflix. I mean, I see Netflix as being a high tech company, not
Okay.
necessarily coming from a entertainment company, a multi entertainment company.
Right.
Disney's a multi entertainment company.
Yeah.
That's what they are. So I don't know if Disney would really just like. Kind of reminds me when AOL got bought out by Time Warner.
Yeah.
Like AOL was still trying to figure itself out, and Time Warner was like, "Listen, let's just get into all this." Now, the return on Time Warner could have done a lot of things at that time in order to, they could have bought Microsoft at that time if you think about it. But that's the thing about these companies, it's that you don't know where it's going. And when you don't have a vision of where it's going,
Yeah.
I think that creates an environment of, okay, we got the next new thing, but now what do we do with it? It's like having this high tech gadget. You don't know what to do with it yet. So I don't really think if it's in Disney's business model to do it. Now, I'm going to say something that's really crazy, Sergio, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you this. I think that I would, if I was a CEO, okay, I would
Here we go.
rather stay, huh?
No, no. I like when you put your mind into the seat of CEO, and this time it's Bob Iger. Yes,
So
I'm
if
ready for
I
it.
am right, well, Bob Iger and Bob Eisen and they had a slew of some fantastic CEOs up
Yeah.
until now. Anyway, so I need to stay true to my brand.
Right.
I need to stay true to my corporate culture, even if, and this is where I mean it, even if I forego a tremendous opportunity with something else. I mean, like the question I think Disney should be asking themselves is it not a good business idea? Is it something that I could make it with what it is right now and take the ball further with it
Okay. I see
and
what you mean.
integrate into my business
Yeah.
so that one plus one doesn't equals two, one plus one equals four.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's
yeah. So when you have these corporate takeovers, it's not about, oh, what's my return on it? It's what I could do with it that's going to make me even greater.
yeah. Look, not all, takeovers are inherently bad. I mean, I remember when Nike bought out Converse, and now look, it's one of the coolest, shoe brands around. So you
Converse?
can, yeah.
Is
I
it
mean,
coming back? Chuck
from
Taylor's?
yeah, they're back. They're back in fashion in a huge way, man.
Oh, is it?
I exclusively buy Chuck Taylors.
Look at that. Oh, do you
So
really?
yeah, I only own Chuck
Seriously?
Taylors. Yeah.
That is funny.
It's weird because I always wanted a pair way back when, but Nike, Adidas, Reebok, Puma, they all dominated the airspace, and then Converse, got bought up by Nike, and they've come back in a huge way. And it's funny because people are actually looking for those 80s, the 70s, 80s styles of Chuck Taylors. They
That is
want that
funny.
retro design, which is what I want.
That's so funny. I mean, I
Yeah,
had it
well,
as a
it's
kid.
it's
I
it's
had a
with
bunch of them as a kid.
it's like any product, and technology, it comes full circle. At some point, I'd like us to also talk about how vinyl is having its best year in about 30
Okay,
years.
that's beyond me already. That I don't know what to tell you.
At some point, I'd love for us to talk about that. To close things off, right? What advice do you have for traders out there with regards to the earnings season?
Okay, so I'm not into the concept of trading going into a earnings number. Yeah, you could trade earnings. The volatility is amazing. Um, the moves are just tremendous, and sometimes you could really like make a whole month in like 10 minutes, not even 3 minutes of trading, 2 minutes of trading. Okay, I we used to have these we used to have it was always a group of Chinese guys on the desk.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they were the smartest, the fastest. That they used to love to trade the earnings. Okay, and they would make like 2, 3 thousand like a pop. Okay, and so I said, yeah, I could do it too, and I did, and it didn't make 2 or 3 thousand. Um, I got slammed not making two. Let's just not get into it. But and so you just have to be very careful when your earning season is coming and when you're trading it, just to be a little bit more defensive than offensive in that type of environment. Because ultimately, do you really know what's going to happen? No. Do you really know how the market will react to what's going to happen? Also, no. So just be with caution. Okay. It doesn't mean you don't have to trade it.
Yeah.
Just means that you have to be a little bit more cautious with it. And volatility is your friend in that type of environment. So just keep that in mind.
Awesome. And on that note, I think we'll end it there. Thank you so much, Fred, for all your awesome advice and insights.
My pleasure, Sergio. See you here next time.
See you on the next one, man.